Well, I can't believe I have to make this video. Turns out, I was wrong. I was wrong about Google. What was I wrong about? Well, I took an optimistic perspective and I thought, Google's telling us that they want better search quality, they want better content, and so, if we make better content, that's what's gonna rank. Turns out, they're actually totally lying. All right, so where's this coming from? First of all, actual experience. We go look at the SERPs and you do just about any search and you got Reddit results and then you got, some other stuff and Quora, lots and lots of Quora. I mean, they've even got Reddit above the people also ask. It's like, I heard on Twitter the other day, somebody say like, Google won't stop until they can figure out how to get Reddit above the Google logo. It's ridiculous. Like the favoritism they're showing for Reddit specifically, but also for just other forum content. It wasn't that long ago, we could consistently say that forum content was low quality content and basically you could outrank them with a half decent blog post almost every time. Over the last couple of years, that's not the case. Now, that's not necessarily alone indicative that Google's failing us and that the search quality's gone bad. Because sometimes the intent of the searcher is they want input from lots of people. But look at this search query. How often do baby chicks die? Well, actually a scientific study would give me the best answer, but scientific studies aren't very good at just giving me a direct answer. So what do? We go to Reddit. First of all, individual people are really bad at giving you statistics because they're gonna say, well, all my baby chicks died. And so now, okay, well, I guess all baby chicks die. And someone else is gonna say, what are you talking about? None of mine die. I have perfectly healthy baby chicks all the time. You would have to actually go look at a study. Or you could do what I did for my blog post and you could go look at data given from hatcheries where literally they hatch thousands of baby chicks and you could get a better idea of what percentage of them survive. And you could look at the scientific study that I cited and all of the other things that I did. And that article is one of my better articles and it still does pretty well for getting me traffic, but here I am searching from a logged out browser and my blog post that used to rank pretty dang high, well, I still can't find it. Why is that? There's all of these other ones that are out there, but why is mine gone? Mine actually looks at scientific studies and pulls in statistics. I could argue that, well, my article's really, really, really good. I hear that all the time from people. My articles are really good. Why are they not showing up? And there may be a lot of reasons for that. And clearly there is blog content that's appearing here. We're definitely getting lots of YouTube videos, which is super common nowadays as well. I wonder why. Who is it that owns YouTube these days? Oh, okay. We also are seeing Reddit at the top. I wonder why is that? Oh, maybe it's because does Google have any sort of, oh yeah, look at that. February this year, Google expanded partnership with Reddit. It's not a conflict of interest, is it? So what is inspiring this video? Well, a couple days ago is actually Jim. He sent me this article the day after it came out. He came across it and sent it to me. And frankly, it's really good. So this is by Ed Zitron. He's got a newsletter, but just go check out the article. I'll link to it here in this video. Basically, here's what happened. He looked at a bunch of internal emails that were released as part of an antitrust case, and they revealed a lot of stuff. This goes all the way back to 2019. You see, from the very beginning with Google, it was always important to them that they keep search, the way that search works, separate from ads, because that's where the revenue comes from. And if the search team was going to be driven by revenue goals, then they weren't going to be focused on making the best search product. They're going to be focused on optimizing their ad revenue. Well, in 2019, that suddenly changed. They called this code yellow, which apparently at Google is like DEFCON 1, right? This is like a big deal. They pull everybody together. They start all these email back and forth, right? And there's a bunch of meetings that we don't have the notes for. But a huge thing that comes out of this is that all these higher ups at Google who aren't any of the original people from Google and the people that created search as it is today, all of these newer leaders at Google are talking about how, no, we now need to update search and search results to help optimize to make us more ad revenue because we're falling short on our numbers this quarter. Imagine that. A big public corporation worried about hitting the revenue targets so that they can appease shareholders in the short term, and in the process, making horrible long-term decisions that make their products worse. It's never happened before, has it? Except every freaking day. All right, back to this. I want to show you some specific things here from this article that just blow my mind. Here we see in some emails, and the beauty in this article is like, every time he references something from an email, he's just linking to the email. You can literally go read these emails, right? I can see exactly what these people at Google said to each other. But they talk about how there's this search gap. Basically, the number of searches being done per day wasn't as many as they needed to be able to hit their ad revenue targets. And so they needed to try to get more searches done per day. Now, one approach to that would be to just make sure that your product is the best product and everybody wants to use it instead of new other search platforms, right? But apparently this growth that they wanted in the short term was super critical to some company plan. Now, there were some people at Google who were a little bit more old timers who were not very comfortable with some of the ideas that were being brought up at this time. And they brought those anxieties to other leadership. But in the end, turns out they were outvoted. They got moved to other roles, and we end up with the Google that we have today. In March 2019, they put out their core update. And that core update at the time, based upon all the buzz around it, we can go look at articles like from Search Engine Journal from the time. And what was going on? What were people seeing? Well, look at this. Traffic on several sites that were abused by Penguin. This was an update specifically targeting spammy websites, trying to fight web spam. That's what Penguin was all about. And sites that were hit by Penguin, suddenly their traffic rebounds significantly. This person says, I'd given them up for dead. Then I noticed affiliate earnings on them for this morning for the first time in a year. Traffic was way up. 400 uniques a day to 2,500. Traffic boosts on a site that was hit by an anti-spam update in the past? Why would that be? But it goes back to some of these discussions that were going on at Google. And to be fair, there were people like Ben Gomez, who is the hero of the story. Read the article. You're going to see how this is just super sad. But he was raising a lot of concerns around this about basically there not being any way that the search team could get people, especially in the short term, to do more searches other than through hacking engagement. Hacking engagement just means that they're essentially tricking users into spending more time on Google. But they'd been doing work before on trying to create more efficient journeys for users. And now they're saying, but we'll make more money if we can make search less efficient. So let's give them garbage search results so they have to search again. He raised concerns, Ben Gomez raised concerns that the search team was getting too close to the money, which was always a problem. There's a reason that they kept search and ad revenue separate. He ends his email by saying, I'm getting concerned that growth is all we're thinking about. Basically a very short-sighted approach so that we can make a little more money right now and appease investors. Now you might think, okay, maybe they screwed up a little bit. That was 5 years ago, Ricky. Why are we talking about this now? Well, one, this article just came out sort of exposing that this was deliberate. But two, when we shine this light and look through this lens at what's going on right now with the SERPs, it really makes you wonder. I don't know what deal exactly Google has with Reddit, but when I look at Reddit, look at this. I mean, I'm here on a page on Reddit, and how many ads am I seeing? Very few. You're gonna see more ads if you come to one of my blogs, and those ads are served by Google. It seems like Google would make more money by sending traffic to our blogs. Like, shouldn't that be what benefits them? But there's gotta be something going on here, because for some reason, Google is like actively picking Reddit. It's not that they're just picking forums. They're actively picking Reddit. Oftentimes, I'm seeing multiple search results from Reddit showing up before I see any informational content by someone who's actually curated the information, done some research, and put it together. Now, I'm not defending all blog content. There is a ton of spam, garbage blog content on the web that frankly just deserve to be removed from the SERPs. And I'm unapologetic in saying that. If you've spent your time focused on trying to trick the algorithm instead of trying to create helpful content that would actually help a user, I don't really care that you lost traffic. Now, I empathize because you put a lot of work into that. But come on, if you're gonna build a real business, you gotta create something of real value that people want, and then that business is sustainable. Maybe that's a lesson for Google too. They seem to have forgotten that principle these days. Now, what's crazy here is they were so focused on making more money from ads and making more money in general that not only did they hack engagement in this way, but they completely changed ads on the SERPs. If you'll notice, when we look at the SERP, especially for commercial type search queries, but really anything that somebody would want to run an ad against, you're going to see at the top of the SERPs some of these ads. Here, now today, they say sponsored. Did you know that before this same time frame, back in the early 2019 timeframe, it used to say the word ad, and it used to be bright green, so it would stand out a little bit differently. And did you know that the actual listing here looked more like an ad? It was distinctively like different from a normal search result. Well, right around the same time as this March core update, they also redesigned ads, and they did it first on mobile, and then they later rolled it out to desktop, where they kept the word ad at the time. Now it says sponsored, but they turned it black. Black doesn't stand out as much to your eye, and so maybe you're more likely to click on it. The other thing that they did was they redesigned the result here to look just like a normal search result, so it would look less like an ad. And then over time, we've watched them go from maybe a couple per page to more like 4, and sometimes even more. It's crazy oftentimes the number of ads we see and how they have redesigned them to make us more likely to click on them thinking that it's an organic search result. It's trickery. It's tricky. Intended to get you to click on the link, because guess what? If you click on it, whether you wanted to or not, Google makes more money from that ad. Now, the article talks a lot more about the people responsible for this, the people behind it, the leadership there, and a little bit more about their background to give you a little bit more understanding as to maybe why they chose to make some of these changes and why the fundamental principles behind Google in the early days seem to have been abandoned, basically so that they can continue to grow even though they're like freaking huge and make boatloads of money. There's some principles of business here that drive me crazy about corporate America, especially public companies, just the nature of what they do and what they kind of have to do to be able to continue to have shareholders and stuff. And the math person in me finds it just incredibly unsustainable. But as the owner of a small business, I'm including myself in this, but I'm also including you. If you're a content creator and you're trying to make money from your blog, you're a small business. As the owner of a small business, I look at it very, very differently. Because I don't have other shareholders. I get to report only to myself. And if my company's making enough money to make me happy, then I'm good. And I don't have to do tricky, stupid things in order to try to make a bunch more money. I hope that you and your business can maintain a mindset of growing to a point of where you want to be. And if what you want is continual growth, that's fine, that's your choice. But just you be the one to make that decision. And don't let it be external factors that tell you, well, you got to keep growing and growing and growing. Otherwise, you're worthless as a business. Anyway, that's kind of an aside. Back to Google. The big question is, what do we do about this? I have always tried to be optimistic. I have tried to be optimistic about this business model. I've been optimistic about Google. And I've tried to think that, you know what? Google's incentive should be to try to be the best product and to get people to want to use their platform. But that only makes sense if they have a long-term view in mind. If they're worried about short-term numbers, then it would also make sense that at various times of the year, especially given just how things are going in any particular year, in order to try to make sure that the revenue numbers hit certain targets, they might be willing to manipulate search results in order to make a little bit more money over this next quarter. Who knows what other things they might be willing to do to be able to meet certain company priorities or agendas that they may have that we wouldn't be aware of. And given all that, I'm not sure it's safe to assume that Google's gonna just always do what's in their best interest for the long term. And so that being the case, I don't know that I can take a totally optimistic perspective when Google says, this is what we're trying to do. I try to believe that that's where they're headed. And I still believe that to some extent, but also it doesn't really matter that much to me. And it's because of this. My goal is to create businesses that add real value to the world. I want to create brands that do good things. And I want to encourage you to do the same. I want you to create something of value. I want you to create content of value that's going to be great and that's going to really help people in whatever industry that you're writing about. And so that is what I'm going to encourage you to do. In doing this, the principles of commerce are going to lead people to your content. Now, it might not end up being through the exact same media that's been working in the past. It might be that Google no longer sends you the majority of your traffic. Up until now, 90% of the traffic to most of our websites on average has come from Google search. And that's shifting. We're focusing now on other platforms. We've been using YouTube for a really long time, and because of that, it's actually really funny when people tell me, well, your business is failing because your traffic is down on this website. I'm like, I don't even care. You know why? Because if I have traffic coming from YouTube and those people know my brand, which, by the way, on YouTube, they're going to engage with your brand substantially more, and you're going to build a much stronger reputation than you can do if you use written content alone. And by having that, hardly notice the dips in traffic from Google search. But also, video is not for everyone, I get that. There are many other ways that we can attract traffic and that we can build a brand. Social media is powerful. Blog content through Google search, it's a very transactional experience. But if you can capture people when they come to your website and entice them to participate with you on social media, to subscribe to something, whether it's an email newsletter that you have, or even better, other social media platforms where you are actively engaging with people, that's gonna do substantially more to build your brand reputation. So in the coming days, weeks, months, and probably years, we're gonna be definitely focusing on a lot more than just writing blog posts and trusting in search engines, primarily Google, to do the things they keep promising us that they're doing. We're gonna protect ourselves by diversifying our traffic sources, and we're gonna be teaching you to do the same. That's where we're headed. And frankly, you can sit here and be upset about Google, and you can be sad, and you can quit and give up if that's what you wanna do. But the best thing that you can do is focus on what you can do instead of focusing on what you've lost. So while I feel for you, I feel for myself, things are happening right now that are outside of our control. Unfortunately, that's part of business. It's part of life, but it's a huge part of business. So what are we gonna do about it? Let's focus on what we can do, and let's go make something amazing, because that is what's gonna make you stand out as a business and as a brand, not just as a blog that gets some traffic from Google.